We've believed Satan's interpretation of almost every verse on womanhood, and he hates us. You know how I know he hates us? He went after our weakness. That's how he was able to deceive Eve. 1 Timothy 2:14. Satan did what predators do. He watched and waited for the weak, soft underbelly to be exposed. He didn't just approach Eve willy-nilly. He stalks, watches, and waits. Job 1 verse 7 and chapter 2 verse 2. There was something wrong in the relationship between the man and the woman. This weakness affected her more than him. So that's who Satan attacked. He's using the same three-pronged approach in his strategy against us. He's smart. That's why he's able to cover up all his bases. First, he's deceived us into believing that femininity doesn't belong, that it's unnecessary and serves no purpose. And that's why we feel silly when we feel her moving inside of us. So we keep her hidden, especially when she's in pain. I mean, who wants to expose silliness, right? Our self-deception works perfectly for him. As long as he can keep the truth and reality of our inner girl hidden, femininity will stay broken and unhealed, and marriage will look bad and not be the reflection that God intended for it to be in Ephesians 5. And second, and worse, is that the men that are healthy but relationally dysfunctional, because they themselves are wounded, will be emasculated by an unhealed woman who lives in her masculine headspace. He can't learn from her or cleave to her because the masculine doesn't want to cleave to a man. On the surface, his wife might appear like a woman, but the experience he feels when he does try to connect to her, it's masculine because that's what she's embodying. It doesn't feel good to him. And third, we've been blinded to think that we do helping instead of being a helper. Have you ever been told you can inspire your husband to do something? I remember years ago there was a Promise Keepers conference coming up, and I was sitting in a ladies group, and I was asked if Dean was going. And I wasn't sure, so I said probably not. A couple of women from the group explained how they encourage their husband to go to functions like that. There was another time I heard the word motivate instead of the word encourage. Like you can motivate him to be involved in small groups. I even had one wife tell me that if he was reluctant to change, that it was my responsibility to help him or coach him to be better, and that's what a helper's supposed to do. These are all examples of how fake femininity is lived out in marriage. It's mothering to a man instead of partnering with him. Women act like mothers in marriage, and then they wonder why their man's not cleaving to them. Fake femininity is when you take all that relational attraction between your husband and yourself, that natural, God-given, sexy polarity of attraction, and you retool it to work the way you think it should. That's not what a helper does. Encourage, motivate, help. Those are all code words for manipulation and control. Sadly, most well-meaning but misguided women are pushing this twisted up advice on young, unsuspecting Christians like me, like what I once was. Loving a Christian man is no different than loving a non-Christian man. You love your man by being the feminine partner in the relationship. God makes a clear explanation of this in Titus 2. He's telling us, do not love your husband like you love your children. The older women of Christendom are not teaching younger wives how to appropriately love their husbands. I can't find anywhere in Scripture where God tells wives to encourage, coach, counsel, instruct, or teach a man anything. That's not how you love a man. It's how you emasculate him. In fact, in 1 Timothy 2, God tells men the very opposite of that. Don't let a woman teach you anything. Men, well, healthy men, aren't wired to let their wives make decisions for them. Masculine embodied men aren't wired to receive instruction coaching, teaching, or anything from their wives. It doesn't matter if the wife is right about what she says or not. This is how it went so horribly wrong in the very beginning. In Genesis 3:17, God told Adam, "It was because you listened to your wife and ate from the tree which I told you not to." Eve taught Adam. She didn't take away Adam's responsibility for headship. He gave it away. The spot for leadership and authority was empty, and the fact that Eve had to move into it proves she was trying to people please him. God warns us about this happening in marriage. He says a wife is going to be concerned about how to please her husband instead of focusing on God. Femininity cannot usurp power. Masculine power must be abdicated first. Femininity is the water that's held within the masculine cup. When there's no cup, femininity reshapes herself to be the masculine so that she can accomplish the job. When there's a void of masculine energy, or a masculine vibe, or polarity, when that thing is missing the relationship, a woman must move from her feminine into masculine embodiment. Adam didn't do the work within himself for Eve to be able to stay present in her femininity. So now we do the same thing Eve did. When we see a vacuum of masculine responsibility, when there's something that needs doing, we shapeshift to pretend that we've got that 90% testosterone that's natural for a man, and we step in and do it. This is important to understand. Eve did not step forward first and force Adam to step back. She stepped in because there was an empty space and something needed doing. Eve was created soft. That's what Adam called her when he first saw her. He said, Aishia. It means soft. And that was the first thing he noticed about her. But instead of protecting that soft, malleable nature, that's feminine embodiment, he took advantage of it. So she was forced to shift into the cup of masculinity. Satan saw that she was going to be easily deceived because she was not in her best thinking capacity. This is Biology 101. Boys and girls are different. Men think linear, and women are absorbed in diffuse awareness. We're hyper-aware. So we're always looking, because we see everything. She saw the gap that Adam left when he leaned back in the relationship, metaphorically, instead of stepping in so he could serve through protection and guarding and guidance. It was Adam that abandoned all his responsibility in the first place. And when he did that, he also abandoned Eve. God's not letting men get away with shirking the responsibility that he gave them. And he will use the power of healed femininity to do that. You just have to allow God to recover and restore you. There's a better way. Your femininity will make the marriage better, or your strength will blow it up.